Hello again, my Yetilings. Come on in, come get out of that cold. Grab some hot cocoa. I just made a fresh pot. Join me over here by the fire. I have 4 new stories for you. The time I almost got kidnapped, but nobody believes me. When I was 8 years old, me and my friend were selling bracelets on the side of the street. I forgot something, and we were only up the road, so I walked back down to my house to grab it. While I was walking down the road to my house, this guy comes out of a lane and asks me the directions to the closest Walmart. I tell him the directions as it was nearby and continue walking down the street. Instead of following the directions I gave him, he crossed the street and started following me on the other side. I noticed this and thought it was weird, so I turned into a lane past my house and ran down it behind a tree. He then crosses the road and turns into the lane I was in and starts walking down looking for me. He goes to the bottom, which it felt like ages for, and then he turns back up. I go down a trail that was on the lane and came up a different hill near it to quickly get to my friend and tell her what happened. We quickly pack up our things and go back to my house using the same way I came up the hill towards her, and we start telling my mom what happened. She said that I was just being dramatic and that he was just confused with the directions I gave him. A few days later, he gets posted to Facebook and turns out to be a registered sex offender who abducted a girl my age, but got caught quickly. Looking back at this 13 years later, that was probably one of the creepiest moments of my life. To that man that followed me, I hope you rot in hell for eternity. Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. I'm from Canada, and this happened a while back, 3 or 4 years ago. For some background, I was a teenager when this happened, and I live in a small town in South Ontario. I'm a woman, was born a woman, and I present myself as a woman, but I am a bit tomboyish. At the time, I was wearing a hoodie and sweatpants despite it being summer. I had long hair though, so I couldn't easily be mistaken for a boy. I also have social anxiety, which is why my family thought I was overreacting, and it was probably nothing. Before my encounter, my mom worked at the daycare in my town. It was about a half a year before my encounter that she told me about a van that would sit outside the daycare during pickup. She described the van to me, a white box van with a missing hubcap on the front right wheel. She wouldn't let me or my brothers walk around town until a couple weeks later, when the van stopped showing up. Back to my encounter. It was 6 p.m. Eastern Time and the sun was dipping low on the horizon. I was standing on the sidewalk walking across the highway so I could get to the park. The highway usually isn't busy, and today was no different. The highway going through my town is very weird. It goes down a hill towards the daycare, and then there is a steeper hill going up to the left, where there are the 2 schools, and there's a wide intersection to the right that has 3 lanes. The van was going towards the hill at the time. There was a turning lane to get into the right intersection. I was on the steeper hill, crossing to the intersection where the park was. The driver stopped in the middle of the highway to wave me across, and this isn't normal. I don't know who he was, but I crossed anyway. Then he followed me towards the park, and of course my anxiety-ridden teenage brain began to overthink. But just the normal overthinking when you're a teenager that has been watching forensics files since the age of 7. But when I was at the park swinging alone, the van began to circle the block over and over again. I began to panic on the 3rd loop and immediately went to join the girls by the skating rink, where they were playing pickleball. All these women were older, 40s to 60s, but I knew them all well. One was a retired cop, and now would be the time I wanted to tell my former cop badass role model, hey, I think that car is following me. But again, I have social anxiety. I didn't know this at the time though. So, I ended up staring at them instead. By that time, I had been gone from home for about an hour and a half. When these girls started to pack up, I started to panic even more because I just wanted to go home at that point. Thank God that my brothers are annoying because my mom was driving past and decided to check on me. I got in my mom's van, shaking like a leaf, and she asked me what happened. So I told her that I thought a van was following me. She brushed me off and claimed I was paranoid while my brothers laughed at me. When I got home, I texted my friends to see if they thought I was overreacting, and they thought I was. I felt pretty alone and stopped talking about it after that. But yeah, that's my story. It's the scariest story I have, and I just want to know some feedback on if I was overreacting or if I had the right to worry. Thanks for reading. TLDR, I think I almost got kidnapped, but my friends and family think I was overreacting. Okay, I want to start this story off with I was 24 years old when this happened many years ago. I was living alone in a not-so-nice apartment complex in a not-so-safe area of the city. Now, it's not the highest crime area. It's in the orange crime level, with red being the highest crime area. Anyway, I was working in retail, and I was making $1 more than minimum wage. This means I had to choose a one-bed, one-bath apartment that I could afford on the low wage. Now, I was able to do that, and I had been living there for about a year. On a weekday off in the summertime, I went to the apartment complex pool. It was lacking people due to it being a weekday, and most people were still at work. I was enjoying the pool alone for a couple hours. After about 3 p.m., a huge man came into the pool and set up on a lounger, with another empty lounger and a table between me and him. I'd never seen him before. I was swimming and then laid on my lounger to get a tan and relax. All was fine at first. I was drinking my iced tea and minding my own business when the guy said something to me. He said, "Hey girl, are you single? How old are you?" He keeps asking questions. The man is about 6 foot tall, and my guess is that he weighs at least 300 pounds. Now, I'm 4'11 and 81 pounds. I answered with hesitation, "I'm 24, and yes, I have a boyfriend." I asked him how old he is. He's 17. He's a boy, not a man. I decided it was time for me to act as if he did not scare me, and I packed up my pool supplies and attempted to leave. As this goes on, you'll know this wasn't easy. In fact, I could have been seriously hurt or killed as I was trying to leave. The huge boy looked at me with a look as if he was an animal hunting its prey. As I was about to leave, the boy yells to me, "I want you, and I will have you." Side note, we were the only 2 people at the pool at this time. I ignored that and started to leave. Not running, just fast walking. Big boy jumps up and starts chasing me while yelling, "I'm going to get you, woman. I'm going to have my way with you." To my advantage of his obesity, I ran as fast as I could back to my apartment. He was trailing behind me, maybe about 3 to 4 feet. He's much taller than me, so he could almost keep up. He was almost on me when I unlocked my apartment door and ran inside, and slammed my door behind me. And then I locked all 3 locks. My door had the main one, and then 2 extra locks. One was the lock bar that locks from the inside along with the burglar chain lock. I'm not sure what that's really called though. My apartment door opened up to the kitchen to the right and the living room to the left. I was dialing 911 as Big Boy pounded on my door and slammed his big body into it while still yelling, "I'm going to get you, girl. You're so fine. I'm going to get in and get you." As he was trying to bust down my door, the 911 dispatcher heard him say all of that. And I was already armed with a butcher's knife, and I was ready to use it on self-defense. Luckily for me, cops were there in just a few minutes, and they arrested the teenage boy right in front of my door. I was relieved. I gave my statement to the police, then the cops got CCTV footage from the office. I never saw that big boy again. He wasn't a new resident, He was visiting family, and he was never allowed to be back on apartment complex property ever again. He was trespassed for harassment and threats of a sexual nature. I should start off telling this event by saying, at the time I'm writing this, I am 18, almost 19, and the events of this situation still haunt me to this day. At the time of this event, I was 15 or 16. I thoroughly enjoyed being around friends. It brought me a sense of happiness and feeling of not being alone. Now, with that said, this is the main event that still sends shivers down my spine and makes me stay very aware of my surroundings. So, on the night this occurred, it was a late Friday night. Me and a buddy of mine that I met in school, we'll call him Toby. Now, I had known Toby for 3 years at that point, and he had come over to sleep after school. We started off the night just watching movies and eating some ramen before deciding to go for a run down my road some ways and back. Now, this was around 2 or 3 in the morning. For context, I've always been a taller guy, and at the time I was around 6'1" or 6'2". I'm currently 6'6", and Toby was around 5'7" or 5'9". But he was a heavier guy. We had ran down the road late at night before without fear, because there was 2 of us, and we were bigger people. My road is 3.5 miles long on the countryside, with each house having 5 to 9 square acres. My house was a half a mile into the road, and we planned on running to a small bridge which was just about a mile from my house, then running back. So that's what we did. We both put in our headphones and jogged to the bridge. I made it there first just because I wanted it to feel like a competition. Once he made it, we both started walking back to my house without our headphones in, just talking about things. Little did we know, our whole night was about to be ruined. I'd say about 5 or 6 houses down from mine, we noticed a car driving in the direction we were walking. We both don't pay it any mind, since it was just people driving at night, and that's not a weird occurrence. As the car was passing, though, we both looked to watch it pass. Mind you, we are still talking, with Toby maybe 10 feet in front of me. The car was an older dark gray 4-door of some sorts, with, I'd say, about 10% tint. Enough to see that there was a driver, passenger, and someone in the back seat, but it was just dark enough with enough tint to not make out any faces or tell what they were looking at. Then when the car passes, we both see the brake lights of the car come on. I say Toby's name in a panic and he says mine. Then the thing that haunts me to this day is seeing the car come to a complete stop, then the reverse lights almost immediately after. We both without hesitation decide to run up a driveway in an attempt to run away because the situation seemed terrifying and not right. I tried to jump the ditch while Toby, who was in front of me, takes the driveway. I absolutely eat shit and bang up my knee trying to jump the ditch, but I cleared enough to immediately get back up and run full speed down the driveway. At this time, I look over my shoulder to see the headlights of the car entering the driveway. My heart is beating out of my chest at this point, with nothing but adrenaline giving me the will to run. We decide to run around the back of this house and hide behind their small shed. It's a good point to say that the homeowners' cars were already there, so we knew it wasn't them. We also didn't look at the car to see the people because we didn't want to be seen ourselves. Looking back on it, I think if I would have saw them, I would have started crying out of pure fear. We stay there for maybe 10 seconds and Toby says, "You see that propane tank in the neighbor's backyard? That's where we gotta go hide next." I'm speechless in this moment and am just trying to breathe. Then, without a count or anything, Toby starts to run. So I follow him and we make it unseen. We sit there for maybe 20 seconds. These seconds felt like minutes though, and in these seconds, we decided to look back into the neighbor's yard. Mind you, there is now probably 11 or 12 acres between us and the car. But at the car, we see 3 men. They're getting back in the car when we glanced. We then decide to run the rest of the way to my house. As we're running though, we see the car driving down the road at a fast rate. Luckily, it was the middle of the night, and they most likely couldn't see us running on the back of the property lines. We make it to my backyard and jump the fence, we have horses, and run to my carport. We both look at each other, and Toby had almost a slight grin on his face, while I'm pretty sure I was as pale as a ghost. I throw up in the grass out of pure fear and anxiety, and he goes inside. Me not wanting to be alone follows him. I get inside and throw up in the toilet in the bathroom just inside. Toby's also in there with me, telling me, "It's okay, we escaped, and we're safe now," and stuff along those lines. We talked about it and decided that we almost got kidnapped or robbed or something. We didn't tell my parents, nor did he tell his when we got home the next day because, well, I don't know why. I guess it's because we were so in shock about it, and we didn't want to bring it up after that. We both didn't sleep that night out of fear that we would see that car's headlights pull down my driveway. To this day, we still talk on a normal basis, and sometimes bring up the event, both saying it was the scariest thing to ever happen to us. But I never saw that car on my road again, and still to this day get creeped out looking back on it, getting reminded of just how eerie people can be. I also have proof of the before and aftermath of this event from that night. If y'all want me to share that, I'll be more than happy to. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you did, please be sure to leave a like and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. I want to give a shout out to tonight's music artist, CO.AG. Again, I've been using a lot of his music lately for videos that are coming out, as well as videos that have already been out on my channel for a while. Please be sure to give him some love down below. I also want to give a huge shout out to Let's Read at Let's Read Podcast for allowing me to use his Reddit until I can get some more population to mine. Please go down below and join my Reddit because I would love to see some of your guys' stories. Anyway, this has been your friendly neighborhood Yeti, Mel, reminding you to sleep well and stay warm.